Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Pots and Petals here, everything garden and allotment related. It's early Sunday morning and you can already hear the robins singing their hearts out. Just listen. I think we've got a few blackbirds as well singing. We do get the song thrush as well down on the plot, which is an absolute beautiful bird song, and another one is the wren. I'm quite lucky with the amount of birds that we actually get down here. I've also seen a few squirrels playing around. I absolutely love this time of year. I find spring and autumn, all the wildlife just comes out to play. It's meant to be quite a sunny day today, so fingers crossed it's going to warm up a little bit because I've got quite a few jobs that I want to get done. Now for the last couple of weekends I keep talking about getting the paths all nicely mowed ready for winter, so that is one job that we must get ticked off the list today. Given the time of year, I know I keep saying it, but we've got plenty of beds that we need to clear out and get ready for the winter time. And I'd also like to try and fill the polyhouse now that I've got the bench all up and running with some of the bits and pieces over in Hospital Corner. So today there's going to be a lot more gardening, but first of all I do need a cup of coffee because I haven't had one yet. So I'm going to go and have a cuppa and then we're going to start with the grass paths. Come on. One thing I did forget to mention is I've actually now set up an email address so that you guys can contact me. I know that you can only put so much in the comments below. So if you fancy reaching out to me at all, then send me an email and I'd love to hear from you guys. So the email address is arthurs, that's plural, .pots.petals@gmail.com. I'll put it down at the bottom and I'll also stick it in the description below. Like I say, I'd really love to hear from all of you guys. I might have let the paths get a little bit too long, so we're going to give this a real good hack back and also trim the path so it's looking a little bit neater and tidier. Well, hey, so that is looking a lot better. I mean, some of that grass was a little bit too long for the push lawnmower, but we made it and that is looking a lot neater and tidier. It's crazy just how a neat grass path really makes the allotment pop. Just look at these beautiful dahlia. So these were already on the plot when I took this one over, and it comes back every single year without a fail, and I just love those pink and white blooms. They're absolutely stunning. Now it does remind me, keep on top of your deadheading, especially your dahlias, because they will last well into the first frosts come end of October, beginning of November. Some dahlias can be quite difficult to tell what is a new bud and what you need to take off as a dead head, but this is actually a new bud, so we're going to leave this little guy on. Some dahlias, the dead heads will go a little bit papery, which you can feel just in here, and as you can see there's no petals in there that are going to open up, and they do look a little bit raggedy compared to the new buds, so this one can come off. This dahlia could also do with a deadheading. So remember, the whole point of deadheading is to trick the plant into thinking that it hasn't been able to set seed. So to set seed, it needs to produce more blooms for you. So here are two prime examples of a dahlia, one in bud and one is a dead head. So you'll notice that the one on top is nice and round, but it's quite short and button-like, and that is going to be your new bud. The one on the bottom, that is a dead head. So as you'll notice, that head is a little bit more longer. It looks a little bit more like an animal head rather than the button that you've got on top. The bottom one we can take off.
It's important to try and tell the difference because you do not want to be taking off all your lovely new blooms.
Yeah, Mum. What you want? Hey? You want some food? Yeah. It's getting to that time of year now where we start thinking about sowing our broad beans. You can sow these in spring and autumn. Now, normally you'd sow Aquadolce Claudia this time of year, but they didn't have any in the shop, so I've had to go for some spring sown. Fingers crossed, these are quite hardy little plants, so they should do okay. You know what I'm like for an experiment. I'm going to sow some of these now in the autumn and some in the spring and see which one gives me the best crop. So we've got two varieties here. We've got Whitkium Manita, excuse my pronunciation there, and then we've also got Masterpiece Green Long Pod. Come on, let's go and stick these in one of the beds. I'm going to use that far bed in the back for the broad beans because it gets plenty of sunlight even in the autumn and the winter time. But what I have noticed is that this bit of board has started to rot away and that bit just down at the far end there. So I'm going to remove those for now. These beds have been absolutely fine without it. It just makes it look a little bit neater, but that's something to think about maybe over the winter time. Before you start, you'll want to fork over the area that you're using to a nice tilth just to make sowing a little bit easier for you. Now, I only dug this over last weekend, so this is all good to go. Next, you can use a dibber or the end of a hand tool just to make your sowing holes, and the idea is that you want to make a zigzag pattern when you're dibbing these holes out. It's almost like a triangle or setting up some skittles. This will help the plants stabilise when they're a lot bigger and fully grown, and it'll avoid them flopping over in some of the high winds that we get down here. They say you want 6 inches between each seed and the rows to be 2 feet apart, but as you can see, I've tried to cram in a little bit more than that. It's more like 1.5 foot maybe. Once you've sowed all your seeds, you just want to cover them up with a couple of inches of soil and give them a nice watering so that you can start that germination process. You really want to start sowing your seeds between October and November. They want a little bit of heat just to get going, and then they should be absolutely fine. One other thing, when I'm sowing my broad beans, I like to have them on their side, so they're thin ways going down rather than flat. It just reduces the surface area and the chance of that seed rotting away in the soil. Another little problem that we have are mice and rats that can smell out the little seeds and they come and dig them up. So I have had some years where nothing has germinated because they've all been eaten. So it is worth just keeping an eye on the patch to see if anything's been digging them up. Now it shouldn't be too long before this starts to pop. I have no idea what it's going to be because it's a self-seed and I've had all sorts of cosmos in here over the years. So it shouldn't be too long before we get to see what this beauty is. The beans, they're starting to dry off nicely. It's a good idea this time of year to keep an eye on the weather forecast because if we get a lot of rain, they could rot away. But we've got quite a bit of sunshine on the way, so these will stay on here and dry out a little bit longer. Now you might remember I was a little bit worried because I thought I wasn't going to have any carrots for Christmas, but we've had some germination, a mixed result. We've got some bigger than others, but I think I need to give it a bit of a weed out just to give them the best chance. So there's still hope for a Christmas dinner yet, guys. Giving them a real nice water and hopefully they'll start to put on a little bit more growth because some of them are still quite small and we need them to get nice and chunky for Christmas. These little onions are looking a little bit anemic. I don't think they've been getting much light here, so I think it's time. Now I've got the shelf and the bench, these can come into the polyhouse now. Same with these little chaps, so we'll give these a water in and these will also go in the polyhouse now.
I've just popped the colocasia in here as well. It seems to be dying back a little bit. I know it doesn't like the frost, but I don't think I've watered it enough. So I've just given it a real good watering in, and hopefully it should spring back to life in here. We've got all the cuttings in here and also the foxgloves. I think they're almost ready to start pricking out soon. So that's a job for the next couple of weeks. Down here we've got all the hardy annuals. A few of them don't seem to have germinated, but these ones, I believe these are the candy tuft. These are doing really well, and also the bunny ears tails. Then at the back we've got some of the house leeks. I brought the coreopsis in here as well, so they're the plants that we divided up. We've got the dogwood, that's at the back there, that's all starting to grow. And then we've got some of the little ghost squash here, well, the roast potato or mashed potato, and then the onions and the strawberries are just down at the bottom. But I've still got all of this space to fill up, which is quite exciting. This pear tree just keeps on giving and giving, so I think I'm going to have to give this a good old pick and take a load into work, because I don't know what to do with all of these. I've got them coming out my ears at the moment. Another bountiful harvest from the pear tree. Whilst harvesting these, you couldn't help but smell like a cider underneath the pear tree from where they're all starting to rot. A real autumnal smell. I don't feel like we've been in the wildlife area much lately, but this is definitely due a little tidy up before the winter, because I've got quite a few hellebores in there and they'll start flowering come December, January time. So we want to make room so that we can see all of those beautiful dangling flowers. We've got all sorts self-seeding in here, but when I do go through there, we'll go through what we've got in there and what we're going to keep. So that's all we've got time for today, folks. It's been a really productive weekend. It was only yesterday that we built the foldable table inside the polyhouse, and that tucks away nicely. So I've got all of that space for the tomatoes in the summer, but then it comes out and I've got so much more space for seedlings over the autumn and winter. And then today we finally managed to mow the grass paths. Now it's a job I've been dreading because it was quite long, and with all that dew in the morning, it was a little bit of hard work, but we got there in the end and it's looking a lot neater and tidier. I managed to get a few other little jobs done down here, but I mean, this time of year it is just busy, go, go, go. So don't worry, I will be back again next weekend with lots more to do down here on the plot. As always, guys, I hope you guys have a lovely week ahead of you, and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you all very soon. So take care, guys. See you later. Bye bye.